All right. Today's video is about how to become an English teacher in a foreign country. Okay, let's get right to it. First of all, you're going to have to be a native English speaker. They are not willing to hire you if you are not. So that would be America, Canada, England, Ireland, Wales, Scotland, South Africa, Australia, maybe New Zealand. Everyone else is shit out of luck. So if you're not from one of those countries, don't bother. Next, you have to get a TEFL teaching certificate. That stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language. There are multiple certificates that are all determined based on how long it took you to get it. There's like a 60-hour certificate. I think there's an 80, 100, and 120. When I was getting the certificate, I think I got the 80-hour one. I was told that that mattered. It doesn't. So just go for the cheapest one, go for the fastest one. Once you have it, no one gives a shit whether you did 60 hours or 100 hours. God damn it, my battery's about to die. Okay, fourth time is the charm. Jesus Christ, I don't know what's going on with my camera today. Fuck Sony, I should have gone with a Canon. All right, I don't know where I was. I think I covered you have to be a native English speaker. You have to get a TEFL teaching certificate. There's a 60, 80, 100, and 120 hour. It doesn't matter. Just get whatever. Just having their certificate is what matters. Once you have it, no one cares whether it's 60 hours or 120 hours. There are a lot of different places that offer the TEFL. I think I did mine through, or I know I did mine through Oxford Seminars. I think there's a lot of different options, but the reason that I chose Oxford Seminars is because they offer to connect you with agents at the end of the program. And that's critical. Getting connected with an agent a hiring agent in the country you're trying to go to is one of the hardest parts of the entire process. So I really advise researching what program you use to get the TEFL and making sure that they offer a service to connect you with an agent. If they don't have that service, I would say try to get onto like messaging boards, try to get on forums, maybe Reddit or YouTube or Instagram communities, and try to connect with somebody in the country that you're going to and see if they can connect you with hiring managers. Now, I know that in some countries, you have to physically go there. I've always heard that about Thailand, that unless you already have previous experience teaching in Thailand, you will not be hired while overseas. So you have to get a tourist visa and you have to show up in Thailand and physically be there before you can start applying to and accepting jobs. But I hear that once you're there, it's pretty easy to get into a job. Okay. Let's see, what else? Requirements. Sorry that I feel like I'm in a rush. This is my fourth time trying to film this. And I am in a rush. I got fucking things to do in 40 minutes. I got obligations. So, 4-year degree. Now, this is something that wasn't previously an issue. When I first went to China, Japan, I think, was the only country in Asia that required a 4-year degree. While I was in China, South Korea and China both began requiring 4-year degrees. Now, they don't care what you majored in. They just care that you have a bachelor's degree. That's the only requirement. I don't know if Thailand or Vietnam or any of those countries require a 4-year degree. Again, that's something you'll have to Google yourself. As far as where you should go and how you should make that decision, that's pretty personal. What I can tell you is that your quality of life is going to be directly tied to how much money you're making. The lower your quality of life, the more money you're going to make. If you're living in Europe, for example, you're going to be making shit money, but you're going to be living a first world European life. It's going to be very high quality, but you're going to be living hand to mouth. It's not the situation where you could save any money, really. If you're going to be living in China, for example, where you're breathing poisonous air every day, and you're living under the regime of the CCP, then you can get paid a lot more money. But that's just a function of supply and demand. There's always going to be fewer teachers in a place like China, and there's always going to be more students in a place like China. And so, therefore, you can ask for a lot more money, as opposed to being in Europe. Some fucking European, I presume, commented on my video saying only an American would call Spain and England next door. First of all, by Texas standards, everywhere in Europe is next door, okay? I can get drunk in Berlin and accidentally stumble into Rome. I could fucking throw a football from Paris to London, all right? So By Texas standards, your entire continent is this big. Let's not get that twisted. So you are all next door neighbors. And so why would a school in Spain consider your ability to speak English competitive? And why would they spend extra money to sort of bring you from America when they can get somebody from England or Ireland or Scotland, right? So you're going to have to consider what lifestyle you want. If you want a European lifestyle, you're going to have to accept that you're not going to make a lot of money and you're basically going to be living hand to mouth, which might be great if you're 20 years old. If you're 20 years old, I would actually highly advise it. Go spend a couple years in Spain or Croatia or Portugal or somewhere like this, or Poland, and you'd live a great life. I think you'd really enjoy it. If you want to make more money, you have to live in a worse place. The Middle East pays the most for obvious reasons because nobody wants to live there. I think probably closely followed by places like China. Japan pays well, but Japan's one of the only countries on earth that has a worse work-life balance than the United States. I would never work in Japan. I would live in Japan if I ever could, if I had the opportunity, but I would never work there. Because why the hell would I leave America just to go to a place that's even more abusive work-wise? Japan also has probably the highest standards. At least when I was in China, I met a lot of foreigners who were getting X amount of years of work experience because the Chinese or the Japanese, I believe they actually required you to have a master's degree to teach there. Or it was either a master's degree or they required you to have a 4-year degree in education. But you could circumvent that additional criteria by having X amount of years of teaching experience, I think 4 or 5 years. So there were quite a few expats in China that were getting their 4 or 5 years so that they could jump over to Japan, which, it is what it is. And to wrap this up, this is going to be a relatively short video. At the end of the day, you're going to have to YOLO. There is going to be a great degree of unknown variables here that you just can't know. It's just the way it is. It's the nature of the beast. So part of the reason why there will always be some degree of competitive nature to the expat teaching scene is exactly that reason, that most people are not comfortable with just packing a bag and YOLOing. Most people are not comfortable with signing a work contract in a country that they've never been to before and they don't speak the language, although I do advise that you visit the country first as a tourist, wherever you're going to go, Brazil or Thailand or Poland. Go there for a month and backpack around. Make sure that you actually enjoy the culture and the people and the food before you arrive. That's a big deal. But at some point, you're going to have to throw your chances to the wind. You're going to have to pack a bag and get on a fucking plane. And you're not going to be all that certain of what waits for you at the other side. And this is a real trial by fire, and a lot of people can't handle it. A lot of people will never take that initial step, and that's really the only reason that these are good positions. It's one of those things where, I was always told growing up, a piece of advice my dad always gave me was just show up, because most people don't. And so by just showing up, you've already outcompeted 50% of the population. And that's especially true for an opportunity like this. Telling people to leave their comfort zone, leave their food and their culture and their language and their family and their friends is an ask that's too big for most people, even for most people who desperately want to go and they desperately want to leave their current situation. They still won't. And so as long as that's the case, these positions will always be competitive for the people who are willing to go, the people who are willing to pack a bag and just say, fuck it. Worst case scenario, you come back to America. That's one of the beautiful things about being American. There are a lot of foreign students in a place like China who come from worse places. They come from the third world or the second world. They come from Africa or the Middle East, where China is a better place than the place they came from. So going home is not really something that they want to do. Whereas as an American citizen, at the end of the day, the worst that could possibly happen is that you're not happy there and you come home. So especially if you're a young man, you don't really have much to risk. Maybe I should comment on the gender disparity and racial disparity as well. Look, the rest of the world is not a melting pot like the United States. I know that modern liberalism will have you believe that America is racist, but America is the least racist place in the world compared to most of these other countries. And if you think the racism is bad, the sexism is even worse. So if you're black and you want to go to China, you can. They will give you a job, but you should expect blatant racism. Now, it's not like character-based racism. It's just purely color-based racism. And so, in my opinion, I feel like if you got thick skin, it would be easy to ignore. There's also extreme sexual discrimination. If you're a woman, you will be treated differently than if you're a man. Again, a lot of these are much more traditional, much more old school, let's call it, cultures. And that's just the way it is. But if you're a young man, preferably white, you are at the top of the pyramid in terms of how you can benefit from being a teacher overseas. Now, there is the flip side of that. Like, I wouldn't go to Colombia, right? Because I think, or like Brazil, for example, if you're a dark-skinned American, I think that you're going to be a lot happier in a place like Brazil than I would be. Additionally, if you're an Asian American, you're going to face severe discrimination in a place like China, because while the Chinese hate everybody, they hate each other even more. The Chinese, they might hate foreigners, but if you're a foreigner who looks Chinese and then they find out that you're not Chinese, they're going to seriously have a problem with you. I witnessed it firsthand many times. And so what I used to say to my Chinese students, especially because of the discrepancy between male and female populations, most of my male students will never have a girlfriend, they'll never have a wife. I was like, get the fuck out of Asia. The worst thing that you can do is be a small fish in a big pond. So I don't know how many Chinese dudes there are in Rio de Janeiro, but I guarantee there's less than there are in Wuhan. So if you can find a reason to go to Brazil, you can be the exotic Chinese guy in Brazil. And as long as you're a little bit dapper, as long as you've got a little bit of swag, you'll be okay. You'll enjoy the benefits of being exotic. Where else should I go with this? Yeah, so you got a YOLO. I highly advise it. As long as you don't have a wife and family, as long as you don't have some incredible career that you've been working at for years, and most young men don't have either of these things, you've got nothing to lose. Worst case scenario, you go over there for a year, you don't like it, you come home. You can even come home earlier if you want, but that seems like it's sort of a waste of time and effort. A year is not a long time if you're 21 years old, right? If you just graduated college, you've got your 4-year degree, you can get the TEFL teaching certificate in a couple of weekends. That's how long it took me. And then, pop, game over. Go. I can't advise it enough. The willingness to pack a bag and fuck off to the other side of the planet, you have no idea what an advantage that gives you over the average man, because the average man's just not willing to. All right, I've yapped on for long enough. I gotta get the fuck out of here. There's such a chaotic week. I'll talk to everybody later. I'll have another video on Monday. I'm trying to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday split. We'll see how that goes. Subscribe. Oh, fuck. Seeking Squalor, toilet umbrellas and champagne chandeliers. Buy it on Amazon. I should have a copy of the book here on my desk, but I'm not smart enough to have thought of that before the video started. So take care and have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.